Welcome, everyone. I wanted to start off this webinar with a bit of a laugh. As we can see here, I love Dilbert and Dilbert comics, and I found this and thought it was hugely appropriate for what we're talking about. This week, I achieved unprecedented levels of unverifiable productivity. I think this is the world of most CEOs, most business owners, entrepreneurs, and even employees and solopreneurs. So just we're going to talk about getting unprecedented levels of verifiable productivity. This is effectivity, and we're going to be talking about your plan for profits. And this is your delegation plan. And this plan is going to take all that stuff that's in your head that you know you need to do, that you know is going to make you money, and actually put it on a calendar and plan it out so you know what you're doing on a day-to-day basis to meet your physical, tangible goals. Now that certainly deserves a... We're solving the problem, and this is going to be super awesome because it's also really simple. I have 7 steps to success. And that's really, these are just the basic things that I do in order to create this plan, in order to delegate, in order to set your goals and know exactly what you're doing for the month. And so where we're going to start is the first step is goal setting. And that's determining your revenue goals, your client goals, how many clients do you want, how many sales you want. So we just talk about what are those goals for the month? What do you want to achieve? And that's where we start, is at the end, with the end in mind. And that's going to help a lot in creating your plan. The second step is we're going to identify the gaps. So that's kind of determining what's missing. Why don't you have what you want to have, and what is that? Third step is going to be to identify your milestones. So that's what are our indicators that we're on the right track to hitting the ultimate goal that we set right from the get-go. The fourth step is going to be to daily break down what you need to do. So that's taking that really gnarly monthly goal and making it into a bite-sized daily goal that you can attain just through a couple hours of work a day or a couple hours of work in a week. The next thing we're going to do is set your targets, and that's going to be your low goal, your medium goal, and your high goal. So what are you doing that's going to be, okay, I did some work and I met some of the goal. The second kind of target is what is your actual goal, and then what's your stretch. Like, we're going to push you to see what can you do to exceed that target. The next step is accountability and reassessment, because you got to track what you're doing. It doesn't help if you don't know how many calls you made on Monday to know if you made enough calls to set enough appointments. So we go ahead and track what we're doing throughout the week and throughout the day in order to know that we're on the right track. And this also allows us to reassess, because if you're making 10 calls a day, but your goal is 30, and you've consistently done that for a week, you know that you can do about 10 calls a day, and you need to kind of lower or reassess how many calls you're making, or delegate that task out to know that you're needing to have someone else make at least 20 calls for you as well. The last thing is to celebrate. We really want you to celebrate your wins, because when you win, you got to say thanks for doing it, congratulate yourself. You have to acknowledge the work that you put in. And so we really, really encourage that celebrate, because that means that you achieved your goal in some way, shape, or form. All right, so here's a reality check. We're going to use a 10% conversion rate on all of our examples. And when you make your plan and when we sit down, that's the conversion rate we typically use. I can get, when you do the specific detailed one with me, we can actually use physical numbers that you have. So if you have a track record of closing 21%, that's the number I'm going to be using. But for this exercise, we're going to be going ahead and using 10%. Now, say your conversion is 20%, you get to do half of the work in this. 30%, just a third. And now say you're really good at converting, you only have to do a fifth of the work. So that's kind of just where we're going from, is the more that you can convert, the better you do, the less work you have for the month. So we're going to start with step 1, which is set the goals. So what are your revenue goals? How many clients do you want? How many sales? How many calls do you need to make? How many opt-ins? How many appointments? And do you have any R&D goals? Maybe you're launching a book or a new product or program. So you got to take into consideration what are you working on right now, and what are those goals. So we're going to be using an example of a 20,000 monthly revenue goal throughout this. And so that's just kind of going to be the baseline of, you'll see, now yours is going to be different. It could be 30K, it could be 50K, it could be 5K. It all just depends on where you're at in your business and what your offers are. So this is just your step 1, is to know, what do you want to get for the month? What is that goal? What are those tangible things that will result in money in your pocket? Because if you don't know that it takes 30 calls to set 2 appointments, you got to figure that out. And you got to know that goal of, I want to set 10 appointments for the month. Well, we got to know, how many calls does that equal? So that's where we're coming from when we're setting these goals, is knowing, okay, everything is related, and how can I optimally do this so that I am as successful as possible? So here's that example. So the goal here is $20,000 in revenue this month. And we can say that right now we're at 10,000, and that relates to our next step. But we'll just focus on writing down that revenue goal, or that sales goal, whatever you have, is what we're going to focus on right now. So go ahead and write down your goals, and they're up here for you to see. So that's revenue, that's clients, that's sales. How many calls do you need to make, and how many opt-ins do you want? Any R&D projects? Go ahead and take the next few minutes to write that down. You're doing great. Whatever you have as your goal, it's perfect. Whatever you have for your sales, it's perfect. Keep going. And remember, these are just goals. They're just goals. They're your ultimate desire. What do you want to achieve? and begin wrapping up. Begin wrapping up. Music's going to end here shortly. All right, great job, everybody. Very well done. I'm really proud of you. It's not easy to put in writing what we want for our goals, and by doing this, you guys are setting yourselves up for success. So I want to thank you, and I want to congratulate you on completing this task. All right, so our next step is going to be to identify our gap. So we know what our goal is now, right? We just spent just the last few minutes to really figure out what those are. So now you got to know, okay, where are you now? Because obviously if you were at your goal, you wouldn't be writing it down. So we're going to write down now, where are you now to calculate that gap? So it's the goal minus where you are now equals your gap. And I'll use an example for this as well. So we have the 20,000 in revenue that we set as our goal. Currently we're at 10,000. So that means if we take the goal of 20,000 and subtract the 10,000 that we already have, we have a gap of $10,000. So that's where we know where we're at right now, is I need to make $10,000 this month in order to reach my goal of 20,000 in revenue. So we're going to go ahead and find your gap. So in all of those things that you shared of how many calls you're making, how much revenue, how many sales, so determine where your goals are now and determine what that gap is. Go ahead and do that now. You're doing great. Keep it up. Find each gap for all of your goals. Let's close that gap this month. You got this. Keep going. Find those gaps. All right, and finish up. Finish up, everyone. Great job. I'm really proud of you. You really dug into where are you now, what's that goal, and you now know that margin of how much do I need to do to fill that gap. And that's awesome. You now know where you're at, and that's a huge start. All right. So our next step is going to be to identify our milestones. And that's determining what are indicators to know that we're on the right track. So we can use the 20, 30, 50 rule, which means that from day 1 to day 10, we can expect to close 20% of that gap, which is our first milestone. In day 11 to 20, we can expect to have 50% of the gap closed or be halfway to our goal, which is milestone number 2. And day number 21 through 31, we should have 100% of that gap closed, meaning that we've reached our target. and that's milestone number 3. So this is just a really easy kind of breakdown of what you need to be looking at, when you need to be assessing. If you're at milestone 1 and you're 30% of the way there, you know you're really on the right track. And if you're 10%, you know that you kind of got to kick it up a notch, right? So let me show you the example here of identifying our milestones. So goal is 20,000 in revenue. We know that we have 10,000 to go, and that's our current gap is $10,000. So if we look at our milestone, our first milestone, 20% of 10K is 2K. So I know that my first milestone is to make $2,000. When we're at milestone number 2, we know that we need to be 50% of our way to 10K, which would be 5K. So that's just an additional 3,000 that I need to make from my first milestone. And milestone number 3 is 10K, meaning that's $5,000 to complete our goal. So when you break it down, the milestones are really easy when you see that it's just a little bit more each time. So we're going to go ahead and write down our milestones. So to get this, we're going to look at our 3, which is breaking it down for the month. So between day 1 and day 10, what is 20% of your gap? And to calculate that again, we'll go back here. We're going to take 20% of 10K is the example. So you're just going to calculate 20% of your current goal, and that's going to equal your milestone. Your second milestone is going to be 50% of that same goal, and that's going to get your second milestone. And once again, 100% of your goal is just going to be your goal, and that's going to be where you hit the third milestone is 100% complete. So go ahead and do that now. You're doing great. Keep going. It's fine if you want to use a calculator. Go ahead and grab it out. If you're having a challenge, go ahead and grab that calculator. If your milestone isn't a whole number, go ahead and round up. We're going to go ahead and overestimate, all right? All right, and finish up, finish up. Great job, everybody. Now you know your milestones. Now you've got your markers to determine if you're on the right track or not as you're going through your month. So I want to congratulate you on that. Now you know exactly where you need to be at for the month with week 1, week 2 and 3, and week 4. All right, so now comes the daily breakdown. And that's just allowing us to take that week or 2 week long milestone goal and breaking it down into chunks for day to day of what you need to do. Now, you can do this divided by 7, and that means you like to work on the weekends, just so you know. Or you can divide it by 5, and that'll give you the workday week. So divide by 7 if you want to break it up over the weekends, or divide by 5 if you want to get it all done in that 9 to 5 slot for yourself. All right, so let's talk about how does that look. So when you divide by 7, that's taking $2,000, and we get approximately 300. Like I said, we want to round up for those milestones and for those goals. So when we look at 5K, 5K divided by 7, that means we need to do about $450 a day. And in our last week, when we're hitting the 10K, we need to be doing about $750 a day. So now you know, based on that, for example, if you have $300 products and you sell those $300 products, you've already met your goal for the day. Now, if you have $1,000 or $2,000 products and you sell one, you've definitely met your one for the day. So this is just kind of the guideline. Basically, what do you need to do a day? How much do you need to sell in a day in order to hit those revenues goals, for example? All right, so we're going to now create our daily breakdowns. So if you have 100 calls you have to make in the week, we're going to break that down to 7 or by 5. It's your choice. And we're going to divide that to get your daily goals, your daily achievement, so that you know what you need to be doing every single day. All right, let's go. Audio preview. You're doing great, guys. So remember, divide by 7 to include Saturday and Sunday. Divide by 5 to get your workday week. Okay, remember, divide by 5. Again, use your calculator. It's there to help you so you can hit your daily goal. And that's for all of the different goals that you have. That's your revenue goals, your sales goals, your appointment goals. That's all included in your daily breakdown. How many calls do you need to make per day? Write it down. Keep going. You're doing great. All right, go ahead and finish up. Finish up. Great job, everybody. Well done. You now know what you need to do every single day for the next month to achieve your goals. Think about that. We're not even done with the webinar, and you already know exactly what you need to do. How awesome is that? Just take a moment. Take a moment to think about that. All right, we're going to move on. So now we're going to set our targets. We want to go with a low target, which means that we're going to hit about 75% of our goal, which is still pretty good. You're hitting it and you're seeing that you're achieving something, at least a piece of it, that you may not even do if you didn't have this plan in place. Now we're going to have a medium goal as well, which is 100%. You're hitting it right on target. You're hitting that exact goal that you set right at the beginning. And now we're actually going to stretch ourselves. We're going to go for a high goal, which is 150% of what we initially shared. So I'll show you what this looks like with our example. So in the goal of $20,000 in revenue, if we look at our low, it's going to be 15K. And if we look at the actual goal, it's 20. And our stretch is going to be 30. So we always want to be doing the activities, doing the needed tasks with that stretch goal in mind. How can I push myself so I'm not only meeting my goal, but exceeding it? And that is really an example of high achievement. And if you're a high achiever, I strongly recommend that you really keep that stretch goal in mind and focus solely on that. Now, if the stretch goal seems quite overwhelming, focus on your mid goal. If 20K feels like it's gonna be a challenge to meet for you and you've set that as your goal, go ahead and focus on that. And now if you're on the low end, let's say it's been a bad month and you're 2 weeks in, you're not gonna make it. That's okay. As long as you keep that goal in mind, that you know that you've hit at least 75% and you don't give up, because that's what this is all about. It's about getting something. Achieving even just something is better than getting that goose egg for the month. So again, really want to focus. If you're really ready to get going, super excited, ready for that stretch goal, we're going to focus on 30K. If we're meeting our goal, it's going to be 20. And if we're looking like it's not such a good month, go ahead and focus on the 15. So that's just an example for you. So now we're going to write down your targets. What are your revenue targets? What's 75% of that target, 100% of that target, and 150% of that target? So go ahead and write those targets down now. Remember, you can use your calculators if you're having a hard time with the math. Write down those targets for your revenue, your calls, your opt-ins, your appointments, your clients, all of your goals. Write down those targets. Great job, everyone. Great job. Keep going. Whatever your target is for you, it's perfect. Whatever that number is, that's your goal. All right, and finish up. Finish up. Great job, everybody. You now know your low goal, your medium goal, and your high goal or your stretch goal. I'm super proud of you. You now know what you need to do in order to meet those targets. So great job, everybody. All right, our second to last step, because we can't forget to celebrate. But our next step is going to be accountability and reassessment. So that means that we're going to be tracking and adjusting the goal if it's either too easy or too hard. Like I was saying, if it's a hard month and you're not going to reach that mid goal, it's okay to reassess and reduce it. So looking at that 15K can actually become your new goal if that's realistically what you can do. So don't be worried if that happens. It's okay. The first couple times you do this, you may be a little off the mark as to what you can actually do. And that's why we do this. It really determines your litmus test of what you're able to achieve in a month. And again, adjust that goal if it's too easy. I did this for my business partner, and he had a program that he was selling, and he made the goal of 2. They're high-end programs, so they're 5-figure programs. And he was able to sell 2 of them in the first week. So we had to adjust his goal because he exceeded it so quickly. So we adjusted it before the end of the month. So instead of him just meeting his goal and cruising the rest of the time, we actually pushed him a little further and added some programs to that. So, and he met the goal, which was awesome. And so he saw huge increases in his productivity and in his effectiveness in accomplishing those sales goals and those revenue goals, simply because we did an accountability and reassessment midway through the week. And that's what you do with your milestones, is that the milestones is when you really want to check in and reassess. Check your milestones, and that's when you want to adjust. If it's too easy or if it's too hard, go ahead and adjust those numbers. And that's okay. Remember, everything here is okay. If a task will take longer, maybe you want to extend the deadline. For example, we had a book that we were launching, and it was very clear about halfway through the month, I knew that I wasn't going to meet my deadline. So I went ahead and extended it a couple weeks because I knew that's how much time I needed based on the current based on my current performance. I knew that I would need to extend the deadline, and I had to accept that. That's part of it, is accepting what you can and can't do. Now, I could have delegated out that task and said, okay, I'm going to give it to somebody else, which honestly I would probably recommend. It makes it a lot easier to get what you need done completed. So if you're looking like you have a lot of work and you need to take it off your plate, this is your opportunity to do so, is in this accountability and reassessment step. And this is where you want to hand off work to your team. If you're seeing that you are totally full, you're running at full capacity, and it's just bogging you down because you know that you have this really awesome goal that you're trying to reach and you're just not able to get there by yourself, I highly recommend bringing on a team, using what's called teamwork. It helps you be accountable. It helps you to see what you're doing. It allows you to delegate to your team the work that needs to get done. So with those sales, with those calls, with those appointments, you don't have to be doing it all by yourself. You can get a team, and they can help you to achieve your goal with ease and confidence that you've never experienced before. I highly, highly recommend it. So that's our accountability and reassessment. And it is really important to track. You may forget, kind of one day, but just get back on the wheel, because if you're making 10 calls a day, but you don't track that, and your goal is, say, you need to make 50 calls in the week, you don't know by the end of the week whether or not you did it if you don't track it. So go ahead and make sure that you're tracking at least on a weekly basis, and I recommend on a daily basis what you're doing. All right, so here's our example. You got to get support, and you got to assess weekly. When we're looking at the 15K, the 20K, the 30K, are you going to reach it, or do you need support? Do you need help? All right, our last step. This is our final step. You've gone through the month. You've done your work and you have reached your goal. In fact, you probably exceeded your goal. So, what did you achieve? What went well? Now, take 5% of your revenue. Remember, just 5%. We're not going to go and buy a Ferrari now that we've made $100,000. No, we don't. We don't want to do that. That's backwards thinking. But we can definitely go out to a nice dinner with 5% of that 100K. So here are some ideas of ways that you can celebrate. You can go to your favorite restaurant. One of mine, I live in San Diego, and Seasons 52 is delicious. It is a wonderful, wonderful restaurant. So when I want to go out and treat myself, I've done a good job, I've met my goals for the month, I like to go to Seasons 52. Another example would be to buy something special. Something that you've been looking at, that you've been wanting. Go ahead and get that. Again, keeping in mind it's 5% of your revenue. And find something that will motivate and inspire. What is going to motivate and inspire you? Go ahead and find something and do that with the 5% of your revenue. Think of outdoor activities or something you would do for a special occasion. Something that you wouldn't normally do. And that could be like if you think about an anniversary dinner and you go to the really nice seafood place, or you go zip lining. My husband and I love doing active things, so we might go do archery or paintball as our special way to celebrate what we did for the month. So think of those things, what will motivate you, what will inspire you. Think of outdoor activities. Maybe you have a book you've been wanting to get. Go ahead and buy that book. Write down how you will celebrate. And the examples are here for you as well, just to kind of get your memory jogging of what's really important to you. How I celebrate is not going to look the same way as you're going to celebrate. So really think about you and what feels good for you. Go ahead and write down, how will you celebrate? You've just completed an amazing month. Your revenues are through the roof. It is now time to celebrate. Go and write it down. Whatever's important to you, write it down. Could be music, could be movies, could be sports. You like to collect things? Add to your collection. Maybe you want to take your Saturday and go golfing. Go golfing. Do what you love. What makes you passionate? What gets you excited? What gets you motivated? What gets you inspired? Go and celebrate. Finish up. Finish up. I know there's so many ways that you want to celebrate. So go ahead and finish writing those down. This is your reward for getting your work done. And we're building it into this system because it is so important. It is so important to celebrate, to honor what we've done, and to see the greatness within ourselves. So, now that you've gone through, we've identified our goals, we've found the gap, we've set our milestones, we've broken it down to a daily basis, we've set our targets, we're now accountable, and we've celebrated. Congratulations, you now have your plan and your profit delegation system. You now know what you need to do, when you need to do it, and how. How awesome is that? So, if you guys love this, I know Huck shared that this is totally free. Now, if you just got a lot out of this, we want you to share. We want to know that you loved it. And Huck's going to go ahead and charge that credit card. If you got massive value out of this, it's just $500. Now, if you went through this entire program and got absolutely no value, send us a message. Let us know, and we'll be happy to just let you have this for free. No harm or risk to you. But if you got massive value, you know what I'm talking about. You were gelled, you got progress, you now have your plan, and you're excited for the next month, then go ahead and let us know. Now, Hawk's got a really special offer for you coming up, so stay tuned, and thank you so much for being with me. It's been such an honor, and I look forward to seeing your results and your successes over the next weeks and months. Go celebrate. Oh, what did I forget? The calendar. I'm sorry. Here we go. This is an example of what we use to track. So you can see here in the yellow, the quick notes. That's where I write down the goals and the targets and all that metrics. And then within, I write down Monday through Friday and sometimes Saturday and Sunday if need be, all the goals within there. And then you can actually put this into teamwork and use teamwork for that. So finally, tips. So put it in a calendar and put it up somewhere where you'll see it every day. So keep going, roll over your tasks. If you miss, you missed 10 calls, roll over and you're going to do an extra 10 calls the next day. And that's okay. Roll over those tasks and keep going. Ask for help. If you're getting overwhelmed, if you're getting bogged down, ask for help. Reach out of the quick stand and someone will be there to save you, because there are things like our VA services. We give you 52 hours free. Use that hour and take it and delegate it, or use 3 hours and delegate it. Daily to-do lists. This takes your monthly and your daily, and you sit there and you write down your tasks. So you have an easy executable list to follow. And make sure to have those team meetings. These are great. They get you focused and centered on what you really need to be focusing on, while taking care of understanding that there are fires that are going to happen throughout the day. Just get back to that list and keep focusing on what are those goals for your month. All right, that's it. I'm done. We'll see you on the next video.